Welcome to A Dose of Feel Good. I'm your host, Whitney Bischoff, and today we are talking about how one seed can change the world. You can see full show notes at doseoffeelgood.my.canva.site. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are at episode 13 today, and we're going to talk about how one seed can change the world, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Lorax and some fun references there. But I don't know about y'all, but I don't know if it's because of the time of year or what's going on. But life has been a little crazy lately, and I'm sure y'all can agree, so I just wanted to start with acknowledging that point that we're all at. And I've been doing a lot of rage coping, so listening to rage music on Spotify, which is glorious at the moment, but I think it feeds really well into this topic that when we say one seed, one person, one thought, one idea, it just takes one thing, and that can truly change the world. It can change the world for others. It can change our own personal world, which I think is really powerful, that each day we get to make that decision of how we're going to show up for ourselves and those around us, and it just takes one thought, one idea, one thing to really change those circumstances. And I don't know about y'all, but I needed to be reminded of that lately. This idea came from, I was with a group of students and they wanted to watch the Lorax. I work in the mental health field, and so we were trying to tie the dots of how does this relate to mental health. And I don't know if y'all have watched the Lorax recently or read the book. I share a birthday with Dr. Seuss, so I am very familiar with all of his characters. But this story, I think, was really powerful in that, obviously, the Lorax himself and the guy he was working with, I can't remember his name. Anyways, the one that was making all the schneets. Yeah. Anyways, like, he literally destroyed all things, and that's how they got to where they were with this young kid who was trying to discover where things are, how they got there, all of those sorts of things. And the guy that made those really poor decisions, he was bitter, he was cold, and had lost a lot of hope. And I don't know if y'all have been in those similar situations where you make a decision and you're like, what was I even thinking? And then we're hard on ourselves, others are hard on us, all of those things. It's a ripple effect. But the beauty of this movie is that it took one kid that really had hope and wanted to know what happened, and that he could be the one to make a difference for things to be restored. And that's true, even when we make mistakes and mess up sometimes. One, acknowledging that we've done that, but two, sometimes we need people to bring us along and realize that we can still do better and be better. It just took the one person deciding to do what they thought was right, and in the end it was, for so many different people. And I think we have this perception of the world that we're just one small little drop in the bucket. Like, what can I actually do that's going to make a difference, right? I mean, we feel small, and I don't like that. I like being big. I like being larger than life. That's a little bit of what my personality is. But when we have this mentality, we think that even when we see something wrong or see something that, we try to acknowledge that we should be doing better, we think to ourselves that, ooh, that's not up to me. The next person will do that. The next person will say something. They have the capacity, the capability, the drive, the energy, all of those things that we think are needed to really make a difference in the world. And sometimes we just don't give ourselves enough credit. And so we're like, I'll let the next person deal with that. I took a social psychology class, and it was this mentality that, If you're in an apartment building and you hear someone screaming, you're in an apartment building. And so you have this mentality that, oh, someone will say something. And then you find out the next day, whatever were to happen, no one said anything because they all assumed that it was someone else's responsibility. And that's the same thing that we're talking about here. When there is something that really pulls at our heartstrings, we want to do something about it. We want to stand up for what brings that fire to our belly and not just rely on the next person to do or say something. Because I know I said this in a previous episode, we are all humans trying to figure out life, all of the things that are a part of life. And so we think, oh, someone else has the mentality or will know what to do in this situation. No one knows what to do, y'all. Like, literally, no one knows. We're just all trying to do our best. But what that best means is that we can't rely on other people to stand up for what we think is right because they don't know what they're doing either. So it just takes those small actions, those small steps. And so changing the world, though, I think sometimes, at least for me, like I'm a helper, I'm a fixer, so I want to help everybody else. But that also means making decisions to change your own individual world. I'm trying to be better about having less screen time and knowing that then I get caught up in the world and everybody else's world and my life is woe is me, and I just don't like that. So I'm trying to do better of like changing my own individual world by eating better because it makes me feel better, really dedicating myself to exercise because my body feels healthy enough to do that. Doing some like intrinsic, listening to music, writing, all of those things that like I know when I dedicate time to that, I feel better and I do better. And so changing the world, again, does not have to be somebody else's world. It can be our own. And when one person makes the choice to do something, whether that's for their own individual life or for others, especially when it's not an easy choice and it's not easy to stand up to those things that can be really scary. But if we all chose to be the ones that acknowledge that, right, or to do one small thing in whatever that is, then imagine the world we'd have. Imagine if we had people who were more kind or who acknowledged each other or really took that time to heal ourselves and acknowledge our mistakes. Like, we would have a very different world. And I think we can all get there because, again, we just have to make one small decision at a time. It's not that we're having to know all the answers and fix all of the things because we just can't. And we may not see the impact of those decisions or what those seeds, if you will, that we plant, what those grow into. But we can't make a difference, and no plant will grow unless we decide to make that choice and plant that seed in ourselves and in the lives of others. So taking that small step, we might not see the fruit of our labor, but nothing's going to grow unless we at least plant that seed. And that's what I really want us to focus on today. I think for our story today, this really comes to light with when it's hard to say something, especially when you know it's going to maybe rub people the wrong way, or it might not be what's maybe seen as the norm, or you might just be in an environment where it's hard to speak up. I worked in a place that there was a lot of fear. It was a very toxic environment. And one thing, obviously, I'm very passionate about is helping people be their best selves. And when you work in a place where, you can see that people aren't treated well and the toll that it takes on them, I'm not one that will sit by. And so I said something, tried to do something, and it did come back to bite me. It definitely wasn't pretty. But the beauty of that is that there were other folks that kind of saw me feeling comfortable in standing up. I wouldn't say I was actually comfortable. That type of confrontation, if you will, is not ever comfortable. But they saw an example of how you maybe advocate for yourself, advocate for others, and really stand up for what is right and what's within your control. And the cool part about that is if I would have just sat by, one, I would still be completely miserable. But I think in that environment, it made it okay to not be treated that way. And so while I'm no longer in that space, I think there's at least this mentality that we deserve better. And I can't see the fruit of that now. But one, I now know that I can do that I can stand up for things that I know aren't right. And then two, it shows hopefully other people that they deserve a better space and to be treated great and to not literally be in tears when you walk into the building and when you leave and throughout the day. It's not a healthy environment, right? And so being able to advocate and show others that, again, no one really knows how to do it, but what it might look like in practice, and that it's okay to advocate for yourself and what you need and stand up for those around you, that really does make a difference. And I continue to hear that. So it's stories like that it just takes one person standing up when things aren't quite right. So why is this important? What's the impact? I think when we start making those decisions for ourselves and for others, it sets the stage and the example for others to feel comfortable to do the same. And I think at least the story that I just told really represents that. And by making those small decisions, it doesn't, again, have to be blowing everything up or anything like that. But it looks like, just sitting there and sometimes saying like, oh, this doesn't feel right. I'm going to say something, or maybe I'm going to talk to my supervisor about this, or, whatever that looks like. And for me, it was a lot of really kind messages, and that was the approach that I wanted to take. But when you do those, when you make those decisions of this is how I'm going to respond, I'm not going to be a hard person. I'm going to show up with grace. I'm going to show up with really helping them see the good. It changes the culture and it changes the environment of entire organizations and people that you interact with. And I really do believe that. And that's where this podcast really comes from, of like, if we show up with kindness, if we do small acts of kindness, give compliments, all of the above, it changes the people that we're surrounding ourselves with. And in the day-to-day, I've seen cultures change. I've seen environments change when we choose to treat people better. And that's what we're talking about here. And the truth is that sometimes being brave and doing those things, even when it's uncomfortable, it's bigger than you. And again, we might not know that impact, but I promise you, it is bigger than you. You're planting these seeds of hope for people who really do need it. And we can't control the outcome of when we speak up. We can't control what someone else is going to do with it. But we can be proud of ourselves for standing up for what is right. And I love that now I say, I will never sit in a room or be talked to in a way that makes me question myself, or where I leave each day of like, wow, am I really making a difference? Because I know I am. And I never want to be in a space where someone's making me feel that way. And I never want others to feel like they have to sit in those spaces either. And so that's what that being brave and planting those seeds is all about, is that we want the world to be better for other people. And we can actually do that. So what are our takeaways? What are some things that we can do with this message today to really break it down into bite-sized pieces? So first, I really encourage you to find out what you're passionate about, because that will kind of help stir that gut, or like I said, fire in your belly of when you are going to do something. You aren't going to be the one that makes a difference for every single small thing, but those things that you are really passionate about. And so, like I said, I've said this a million times, like I'm just really passionate about people feeling like they're seen and like they should exist and take up space. And I do that through compliments or really small things, but that is something that I am extremely passionate about. And so when someone is being treated poorly, I will stand up and say something, even if it's a total stranger. So find out what you're passionate about, so that way what are you going to stand up for and say and plant those seeds of hope for. The next thing, I want you to think of a good deed, anything under the sun, but something maybe that feels good to you, that has happened to you, and remind yourself of what would happen if we didn't experience those good deeds. So that can be something as simple as, paying for a meal for a stranger, those types of things. And imagine if we had a world where no one did those things and what that would look like. And can you see that impact? And think of the possibilities, I know, which is counterintuitive to a lot of what I say on here. But think of the possibilities of if we didn't do those things. Like, what kind of world would we live in? And remind yourself that people are doing those things. And so while the world might be hard, those things are still happening, which I think we have to remind ourselves that those small actions, again, do make a difference. And the last piece, I want you to take note of, again, what you stand for and the things that you will not tolerate, whether that's for yourself or others. And once you have those, really, sometimes it's practicing encouraging of like, what would I say if I were to walk in and this thing were to happen? Or what would that actually look like in practice? And write those things down. Like, this is what I will not stand for, and I will say something every single time or do something, because that will really encourage you to make those small steps when you're put in those sometimes hard situations, and know that you really can make a difference. And I love that. We aren't all going to solve all of the world's problems, but we can start with one decision each day to be better humans ourselves and really have that impact on the world around us. And it just takes planting one seed, one positive seed a day, and the world will start to change. And if everyone did that, if everyone did just one small positive thing each day, our world would be a much better place. And I very much look forward to when we have a world that is in that space. And I might have some naive hope, but I really do think we can all get there. So thank you for joining me this week. And we are going to do a podcast relaunch here in the next few weeks. I just really hope, and I've heard that people really are impacted by these messages, and I want to reach more people. So if you have ideas to share, I'd love to hear it. Until then, make sure you stay tuned for our episode next week. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are feeling ready to conquer the week and let your impact ripple out to the world around you. Let's connect on Instagram and Threads at Dose of Feel Good Podcast. If you're loving the podcast, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and leave a review. Until next time, share your own dose of feel good and never underestimate the power of positivity.